Hi, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and advocate from danaarcuri.com. And today's topic is one that I have been thinking about for quite some time. I actually shared a little bit about this whole Jekyll and Hyde persona in my memoir, Soul Cry. But nevertheless, let's go forward in this topic called the Narcissists Jekyll and Hyde persona. So we must understand that many people who are narcissistic and who have these personalities and these behaviors, characteristics, and toxic traits wear a mask. They wear this mask in public. And oftentimes that is why many people become the victims of narcissists, because they were fooled. They did not know when they met a narcissist that this person was actually narcissistic and had a Jekyll and Hyde personality. And so a lot of people who I'm friends with and engage with on social media will share their story with me. And many of these people have been married in the past to either a male or female narcissist. And when they share their story, even though their situation's not like mine, because my narcissist, the person who was narcissistic in my life was my mother, there's still very many similarities. And so today I'm going to talk about this Jekyll and Hyde persona, the mask that the narc hides behind. So whether you are either an adult child of a narcissistic parent, or you have been in, or you may still be in a relationship, whether it is an intimate partner, a marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend situation, or you are, like I said, an adult who is dealing with the aftermath of narcissistic abuse, I think a lot of you are going to relate to what I have to share. And so first, let's just start with you are not alone. Oftentimes when we find ourselves dealing with a malignant narcissist, we feel isolated. We just feel absolutely stunned that someone could one day be, this really happy person and they're really nice to us. And then the next day, they are screaming, they are cussing, they are freaking out and flipping out on us, they are silencing us, they are blaming us, they are gaslighting us, they are manipulating us. I'm telling you, people, there are times like our head could just spin. That's how crazy it gets. So the narcissist will wear a mask, especially in public. So, for example, on the work front, they are wearing a mask. Oftentimes when they attend, weddings, baby showers, graduations, holidays, and parties, they've got that mask just fixed perfectly on their face. And many people think, they're such nice people and they're such great people. But lordy, when you could see them after their mask is removed, you will see someone quite sinister. And so we must understand the narcissistic person will try very, very hard to conceal who they are underneath their mask. They don't want to be exposed. They will do everything in their power to control that nobody sees the real them. Nobody sees who they are at their inner core. And so oftentimes, people on the work front might not really know that their boss is actually a narcissist. Or if you are at a social gathering, you might not see all the hostile signs of the narc because they're wearing their mask and they're pretending that they're a really great person. Next, the narc loves to play charades. Oh boy, this is their favorite game. Ha! I bet they're excited for Halloween coming up. They're ready to pull out another mask. And meanwhile, they enjoy taunting us with their mind games. So the narcissist, whether their mask is on or it's off, They enjoy and take great pleasure in hurting other people and blaming other people and shaming you and saying that you're the problem. And they love, okay, this is good, people. Narcissists love to accuse you of being a narcissist. I mean, I'm telling you, it can't get any crazier than that. That these malignant people, subhumans, will purposely find people who are more like the scapegoats, the empaths, the truth seekers, and they will turn on you in a flick of a finger. And they will sink their little teeth in you like a vampire, because they are emotional vampires. And they want to weaken you. They want to destroy you. They aim to hurt you. And boy, oh boy, do they know how. Next is that oftentimes the narcissist has this very syrupy, sweet persona. So to the world, they may look like they have it all together and like they're a gracious person and that they're a kind person. But we have to understand, they do this with their coworkers. They do this with their neighbors and their friends and their community. But boy, oh boy, when you catch that narcissist behind closed doors, ooh, looks like Jekyll turned into Hyde. Oh yeah. So behind closed doors, the narcissist becomes a raging lunatic. I am talking, they will do a complete turnaround. That syrupy sweet person who just talked to you the other day, oh, you're not going to see them today, because behind closed doors, they rear their ugly heads. They will attack you. It could be mentally, it could be physically, it could be in other different ways that are quite unhealthy and quite abusive. And what they'll do is they'll constantly be switching on this little persona, this mask. And there are times when we will catch glimpses of the mask falling off. It might just kind of slip down their face and we'll catch a glimpse of this evil person and who they really are at their core. It's sometimes shocking when you finally awaken to the abuse of a narcissist and you really confront your harsh reality that, whether it is your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, or whoever it could be, it is just mind-blowing to realize, yes, this is real. Yes, the narcissist is really that bad. And so we get to see a whole other side to this person, and it is quite freaky, creepy, and ugly. 1 minute, the narcissist. Oh, good Lord, this brings back so many memories of my mother. 1 minute, the narcissist is syrupy sweet and she's giving you compliments. Oh, your hair looks so great today. I used to get that all the time. So my mom would compliment me as soon as I'd walk in her front door. And she'd just pour out the praises. Oh, you look so good. Did you lose weight? And then all of a sudden, when you least expect it, say an hour later, out of nowhere, I am talking unexpectedly, people, like you didn't even see the bomb coming. At the drop of a hat, though, all of a sudden, the mask will slip and Jekyll will disappear. And now it's Hyde, who has now revealed themselves to you. And they'll start yelling at you, screaming at you, verbally swearing at you, saying every toxic, hostile, really hurtful words to you. And then all of a sudden they're saying, you're fat, you're ugly, your marriage is awful, you're a failure, you're unworthy, and you're the problem. I mean, this is exactly what comes down in the privacy when you're with a narcissistic person. And you are starting now to see the other side of them. And remember, for anyone who's in a relationship, as in like a whether it's your friendship, whether it's an intimate relationship. So it's not your family. This is more so on the dating scene, getting married and so forth. Many of the people who have been subjected to being the victim of a narcissistic partner and spouse will say, for the first year, I had no idea. My one friend said he was on the best behavior. He filled me with compliments and praises. He said how beautiful I was. He said how kind I was. He found so many ways to try to lift me up and to get me to trust him. But that's the most important factor. The last sentence. They're trying to gain your trust. They're trying to first have this persona where you see them in one way because they're pretending to be this person. Remember, they are great actors and actresses. I'm telling you, folks, the narcissist could win an Oscar in Hollywood for how good they are at make-believe. Because, boy, they are very, very believable, covert, sinister, and yet so smooth and sly and cunning. They're very clever people. And because their whole life they wear this mask, they become very good at it. And so a lot of times my friends who have been in these relationships and some are still stuck in the narc relationship will say, I didn't even suspect it in the first couple months or the first year. They were on the greatest, well-behaved, actions and words, and everything about them seemed pretty good. But then all of a sudden, lordy, no sooner was the honeymoon over, and boy, oh boy, did that narc rear their ugly head. Because that's when you start seeing who they are. When you live with a narcissist, you find out real fast their traits, their behaviors, their habits. You start catching them in lies. They are pathological liars. You will catch them 1 minute saying one thing, and then the next day saying, I never said that. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're insane. You're imagining this. Oh, you're so sensitive. Oh, you need to get over it. And this is just the kind of three-ring circus that these people have with narcissistic relationships. It's up, it's down, it's all around. It is a roller coaster and one hell of a ride. Buckle up if you're still with a narcissist today, because it really does take you to hell and back. And it can leave you drained, numb, and traumatized, whether it's only been a couple months you've been with a narcissist, or it's 50 plus years or beyond that you have dealt with a narcissist. So it could be, again, it could be a relative, it could be a spouse, it could be a coworker, whoever it may be, you get it because you're dealing with it. And it is just beyond horrifying, just absolutely heartbreaking how our lives are radically changed because of a narcissist. Next is that the narcissist will leave you dazed and confused. So when you're experiencing this Jekyll and Hyde behavior, especially if you live with a narcissist, so whether it is your parent, a sibling, a relative, or someone you're married to, it might even be your roommate. I mean, we have to keep the door wide open for any scenario because today we know there are just too many narcissists in this world. And so what happens is you're living with them and you really get to see who they are. You understand now because you've caught them time after time after time in these pathological lies and their sinister agenda and in the horrifying abuse that goes on. And it's just fearful sometimes that you don't know at what moment they're going to lash out at you. You don't know when they're going to fly into an uncontrollable rage. I could say with my mother, she wasn't predictable as far as the time it would happen. I didn't know, would it be a couple weeks until she'd fly back in that weird Hyde kind of persona? Or would it take a month? I never knew when she'd blow, when she'd freak out, when she'd flip out, when she'd let that mask of her slip. But I really started in my 40s coming to grips with, oh dear Lord, this woman is a narcissist. She's quite unstable, quite unhealthy, quite malicious, and very, very psychologically abusive. And I reached a point when I had to stand up to her because otherwise I wouldn't have survived. So that is one thing I want to mention. Do not be silenced by the narcissist. Do not remain in a relationship with a narcissist. There is no winning. There's no winning. A lot of you think, well, I have to because I have children, or I have to because I don't have the money to live on my own, or I have to because, and then fill in the blank. So we can have every excuse under the sun on why we have to stay in a relationship with a narcissist. But understand this. You can take your power back today. You don't have to tolerate abuse. You don't deserve to be mistreated and walked all over and trampled all over, and to have your boundaries disrespected and to be treated like an object of possession. Because keep in mind, the narcissist does possess you. The narcissist thinks they own you. The narcissist thinks that they can control you and overpower you, and they will do everything in their power to do so. And therefore, it is very, very emotionally and physically and spiritually unhealthy to stay in a relationship with a narcissist because of this Jekyll and Hyde personality and how unstable and mentally delusional it is. Next, if you confront the narcissist about this Jekyll and Hyde behavior, so if you would confront them and you want to address it and you want to have a very calm adult conversation with them, there's no such thing as an adult calm conversation with a narcissist, because what happens is they will become defensive, they will be in denial, they will lie about it, they'll flip the switch and start baiting you and provoking you and gaslighting you and manipulating you, and the next thing you know, this emotional vampire is again sucking your life every day away. It's just sucking your joy away. It's sucking your hope away. It's sucking your dreams and your vitality and everything that you have hoped for in your life. They want you weak. They want you powerless because they're control freaks. And next is that, so for an example, when I confronted my mother, and this goes back to, and I actually know the dates, but it was 2006. And so in my book, Soul Cry, I did share about this Jekyll and Hyde behavior that my mother did have. And I shared how on this one particular evening, I went over to my mother's, I was with my kids. They were really young, okay, because this is back in 2006. They were much younger. And we ate dinner together. And then my kids went off to play, and I'm alone with my mother. And all of a sudden, her mask slipped. So that whole Jekyll and Hyde persona, it was like she wasn't keeping it together. She let her guard down. And all of a sudden, I turned around. I was getting a glass of water. And then I turned around, I looked at her, and I could see on the expression on her face this very hostile, terrible expression. I could see visually that she was angry. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let me try to figure this out. We just had dinner. Everything was fine. We had a pleasant conversation between my children and my mother. And all of a sudden now I'm alone with this woman in her kitchen, and she flipped the switch on me. Her mask must have fell, and I am seeing her raging like a lunatic. So she started out of nowhere, total unexpected. Like there was nothing that led up to it. Like I didn't provoke her. I didn't say anything. Like I said, we were having a decent, pleasant, calm conversation prior to that. Boom, just like that. That woman, she started screaming at me. F-bombs were flying. She swung her hand out to hit me across the face. So she was going to slap me across the face. And I kind of stepped back. And I put up my hand and I said, hell no, woman, not today. I'm an adult and I will not stand for this toxic abuse anymore. I was beside myself. I decided I would not have any more conversation with her. I would not talk to her. I would not explain myself. No. Instead, I decided I'm out of here. I am gone. And I packed my stuff, got my children, and we got in my car and we left. And this is the kind of stuff that comes down now. So what happens after the narcissist will suddenly let their mask slip and they become Hyde and they are raging and they are hostile and they are seething, mad and furious. Okay, what will happen is the next time you speak to them or you see them, they act like nothing happened. They won't bring it up. They won't talk about it. Looks like their mask is in place because they're syrupy sweet all over again. Oh yeah. So this is what the malignant narcissist will do. This is what my mother did over and over, repeatedly, month after month after month. Mind you, I dealt with this for 50 plus years. This became normal. Can you imagine that? The most abnormal, insane behavior and dysfunctional relationship became normal, but I know deep down inside that this isn't normal, that this is absolutely ludicrous, appalling, despicable, and psychological abuse and physical abuse. And I know that something was deeply, deeply wrong with my mother and my relationship. Let's move on. So what happens is when you confront the narcissist about their behavior, you might even say, you act like Jekyll and Hyde. So you might tell them what you think, what you believe, and what you are observing about them. So what will happen is they will become defensive, aggressive, hostile, extremely, extremely angry. I mean, I'm talking fuming mad, and they will attack you. They will either verbally and or physically attack you. And then they'll call you crazy. They'll say you're the crazy one. So their words and their actions and their behaviors are very inconsistent. Their behaviors and everything about them, they're up, they're down, they're all around. You never know when the bomb will drop. You never know. But one thing you learn through time, especially if it is a parent, you know it's coming, and you know you better beware. Next is that in a social setting, the narcissist is on their best behavior. You know, my mom was very good with this. She had her smile plastered on her face before she even walked into the room. So if she's walking into, say, church or say a social gathering, she had a smile plastered on her face before she did so. Very believable. So 1 minute they're sweet, the next minute they stab you in the back. Believe me, I went through this my whole entire life. I definitely am aware of how absolutely destructive it is for the victims. You know, you are broken. You know, they will tear you down and tear you down and beat you down and beat you down until you are so freaking low that there's nowhere else to go. And then you realize one day that the only way to go is up. And so by God, you dress up, stand up, and speak up for yourself. You set your healthy boundaries and you make some radical changes for the better in your life. And that's what I did in 2018. Underneath the mask of the narcissist and their whole Jekyll and Hyde persona is a very bitter person. They're very hateful. They're very prideful. They're arrogant. They're violent. And they are a malignant narcissist. They absolutely have no empathy for anyone. There's, you know, that whole thing with, you know, being able to be a caring person. No, they're not a caring person. They will chew you up and spit you out and dispose of you, no problem. In private, the narcissist will abuse you. Okay, so it is mental, it is psychological. Unfortunately, for some people, it could even be worse. The narcissist does try to exert their power over you because they are control freaks and they want to influence everything in your life. So for an example, it could be they want to influence you in such a way, especially if it's a marriage, they don't want you to have friends. They don't want you to have happiness. They don't want you to have money. Many of the narcissistic spouses, especially men, because men usually are the breadwinner, typically these male narcissists will find every way within their power to make sure that their wives have no money because they want you stuck with them. They want to overpower you and your financial freedom. They don't want you to be free. They don't want you to be able to be an independent, productive person in society who could be taking care of your own self financially. No, no, no. They want to strip you, especially of money. They want to strip your self-esteem. They want to strip you of relationships. So they will try to triangulate and destroy your friendships, relationships with your coworkers, relationships with your neighbors, and on and on and on it goes. Next is that the narcissist is a very domineering, aggressive, violent person. They are pathological liars. I think they believe their lies. I'm at a point where I honestly think the narcissist does believe their own lies. That's pretty sick. Next is they do have a split personality that does rear its ugly head unexpectedly. So we don't always know when it's going to happen. We don't know, when this whole Jekyll and Hyde persona will reveal itself. But we know after experiencing it, for year after year after year, we do know it's coming. We do know. And that's why a lot of times then the relationship is extremely stressful and extremely unhealthy for us, because we should not be in a relationship where, number one, we can't trust someone. We should not be in a relationship when we feel our safety is jeopardized. And we should not be in a relationship when there is such toxic abuse happening on a very frequent basis. The narcissist is in denial about who they are. I think that they may get glimpses of who they are, and after years and years of them hearing people, who want to call them out, who do have the courage to speak up about how toxic they are, there will be times when people will confront them. Here's an example. I was at my mother's house. This is back earlier in 2018. And this is when my mom was getting worse. So her behavior was becoming a lot more hostile, a lot more vengeful, a lot more rage going on, a lot more bitterness and hate and psychological abuse was occurring very, very frequently. And so I'm at her home and her phone rings. And so I'm quiet and obviously respecting that she's on the phone. And I could get a snapshot of what this phone call is about. I could tell it's a girlfriend. I could tell they're chatting. Her girlfriend must have confronted her about something. My mom must have said and done something that really, really hurt and upset her friend. So her friend was basically telling her, this is what's upsetting me. This is what's bothering me. All I can say is my mom had F-bombs flying and my mom slammed the phone on her. And this was normal. This is normal behavior of my narcissistic mother that I would observe, especially the last few years that I was in contact with her. And I started seeing it more and more and more and more. Physically, I became more and more sick. The more I could see how hostile my mother was and how hateful and how bitter and how psychologically abusive. And I was starting to come to terms with that she wasn't a very abusive person and that she had two personalities. One was very syrupy sweet, one was very hostile and hateful. And as I became more aware of this and I awoken to this, I may not have really quite understood narcissistic abuse yet and everything about like manipulation and gaslighting and retaliation. I didn't yet have all that education behind me in the earlier days, but I did recognize how unstable this was, how dysfunctional, how unhealthy, and that it was impacting me in a very, very negative way in which I became physically ill. So anytime I was with my mother, I noticed within hours or within even like a 24-hour period, I'd have migraines, my fibromyalgia would flare up, I'd be in a lot more physical pain, I would become sick, I would end up with the flu, I'd have insomnia, or I'd start having nightmares at night. Nightmares, and because I am a survivor of narcissistic abuse and child abuse from my mother, yes, so it's very common and normal and natural that trauma patients, especially if you have complex PTSD, you will have triggers, you will have nightmares, you will have flashbacks. Even if you want to forget, like you desperately are like, oh, I just don't want to deal with all these horrible memories. You can't make it go away. You cannot make it go away. And so it's not healthy to disassociate. It's not healthy to be hypervigilant. Instead, we must heal it by feeling it. So we allow ourselves to feel it. And it hurts. And I could say it hurts like hell, and I'm still dealing with the aftermath. My mother has passed away very recently, and I'm still dealing with the aftermath. I may be dealing with this for the rest of my life. And I'm still holding on to hope, and I know I'm a fighter, and I know that I'm empowered, and I know that my life and my peace and my dreams matter. Next, what happens is when we do confront the narcissist, and some of us will. Not everybody has the courage or the strength to come face to face with a narcissist and to say, I am done with you, and I will not tolerate your abuse anymore, and I cannot be in a relationship with you if you continue to mistreat me, gaslight me, and abuse me. But there are some of us who are strong. There are some of us who do have the courage and the bravery to speak the truth and to have boundaries. And this is what happens. This is what happens. They don't care that we have boundaries. They don't care how we feel. They don't care if we are hurt and we are so confused and if we are heartbroken. They don't care. They take joy and pleasure in hurting people because they need their narcissistic supply, and that's why they keep on throwing those arrows our direction, because they need more narcissistic supply. And so if we don't want to be in contact with them, they know they will lose their supply, and they're freaking out about it. They might not try to act like it. Again, the mask is in place. The mask is in place. Oh, they're so sly. They're so smooth. But they're scared stiff that if we leave, their life just might crumble behind them. And then what? What? They're going to be exposed? They don't want to be exposed. But guess what? Us truth seekers, we will speak up. We will share the details, regardless of how toxic and how traumatic the details may be. These unspeakable things have happened to us, and by God, we're going to speak the truth. But the narcissist will be extremely furious about it. They'll go into a flying rage, and they'll try to hurt you in any manner that they can do so. And so remember this. We're going to end on this note. If you're dealing with a narcissist who is malignant, who has a Jekyll and Hyde persona, number one, you're not alone. And number two, know this. Stable people who have a sound mind would never, ever, ever punish you for setting better boundaries. They would never silence you for speaking truthfully. They would never go into a rage and attack you when you confront them about your legitimate concerns with your relationship with them. Most importantly, stable people do not have double personalities like Jekyll and Hyde. So today, take care of yourself. Today, build better boundaries. Today, know that there is no winning in a relationship with a narcissist. And so if you are dealing with this Jekyll and Hyde persona, share with me the different things they said to you, they did to you. Did they attack you verbally when you called them out? share with me what happened and how they revealed this Jekyll and Hyde personality. And in the meanwhile, you could be encouraged at DanaArcuri.com. Thanks and have a beautiful, peaceful day.